Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to the Problem Solving Politics live stream. Our last live stream before the apocalypse and Cody, I just got my radio. Speaking of Cody, I'm your host, Cardinellis from Oracle.
Hey, everybody.
Forgot to introduce you there. I apologize, my friend. Anyway, dude, got my CB right here, Cody, and I fully stand by having CB, ham, actually GMRS, better said, and or ham radio if you're licensed. I fully stand by this just because when the crap hits the fan, baby, that is what's going to be working. And I will be able to communicate with my friends and my family and my loved ones as the hordes of zombies and or Antifa raiders attack. So don't knock it till you try it, because it's actually super fun too. Speaking of which, I got two questions for the chat. One, are any of y'all ham radio licensed? Because if you are, that's pretty sick. And I'll let you know if I'm ever going to be on a repeater. Maybe we can have a little on the air jam. You know what I'm saying? And two, if you're not, and you're interested in getting ham certified, like what you're studying, what you're reading into and stuff like that, because I have some friends that are getting into it as well. And then maybe we can gang up on Cody and convince him to get his ham radio license and become one of us.
For things.
Why not? Like driving. You have a driver's license.
I do have a driver's license. If I didn't have to have one, I wouldn't. So,
well, GMRS, you can get the license by just paying for it. You don't even have to actually pass the test anymore. They figured out all they really want is money, so they just charge a fee, and then you buy the license, and they're actually still pretty powerful. But then you also got CB, Cody. You got old school 11-meter CB, which is like what the truckers have. And it's kind of cool because when you're driving down the highway, if you keep your CB radio just like scanning on your dash and stuff like that, you know what I'm saying? Because you have an old suspension like me that goes like this when you're driving. Then all of a sudden you start hearing like, you know, Bert and Ernie talking on the airwaves because they're on CB. So it's super fun, dude. Pop quiz. What does CB stand for?
Citizens Band.
Dude, crushing it. You know, I watched a movie once, and the reason why I stick by this
is the most interesting thing in America going on right now. Radios,
dude. We are preparing for the apocalypse.
There's
dog.
We have a super chat. Let's get to that, and then we'll talk about relevant things. Anyway, Marcus Robert Johnson, $5 super chat. Thank you very much, man. Said, should Yang have attacked the Dems more? How Trump ran against the Republicans? I know it breaks his character. Maybe he was true to himself to a fault. Remember, he did a little bit. Should Yang have done it more? I maybe would like to see it a little bit more. Ooh, I'm getting blown out here. But I definitely think it's going to happen to the Democratic Party with someone soon. Someone's going to come in like Trump and blow the Democratic Party open. It's too old, boring, and there's too little energy and enthusiasm behind it. The fact that honestly, Democratic Party was wide open 2020. One of the reasons why I was so interested in Yang. But yeah, I don't know if it was just his personality or he did try a little bit. Remember when he did the unofficial part of Democratic Party, he boycotted like MSNBC and CNN and stuff.
It was his most beautiful moment. And that was when I think he won my most respect when he said, I'm not going back on there until they make amends. And to me, that was the filibuster of the fourth party government when I had the most respect for him, besides his good ideas of thorium reactors and UBI. And then when he tucked tail and bent the knee to MSNBC, I knew he didn't have the spine to be a president.
Well, it wasn't MSNBC, it was CNN he went back to. But yeah,
it was MSNBC. He appeared on MSNBC.
I think he didn't go back to MSNBC for a while, right?
No.
Did, but
I remember he had specifically told MSNBC, and he had a list of demands. He says, why aren't you letting my campaign send surrogates? You always demand that I come on, but you allow Bernie surrogates to come on. So I remember he specifically had like his list of demands, and he said, I want to be able to send campaign surrogates. And there was another demand. He said, they had to apologize for...
List of demands.
Yeah, they had to apologize for whatever thing they screwed up on. And he bent the knee and went back on an interview with him, man.
Okay, how about this? Do you want to really quickly take a look at the current 2020 quote-unquote consensus map for the election?
Yes, let's do it. Let's do it. Hit it.
Now, before I show this, I just want to say, I don't think this matters. I don't think any of these numbers matter. I think all these polls, I think it's all stupid and doesn't matter. But just for context, this is where allegedly we are heading into Election Day. So let's pull it up.
No, this is where the media wants us to think we are.
So we're going to go through a couple. This is the 2020 consensus map. You can see at the top right there.
It's all lies.
Has a Biden eking out a narrow victory. We'll go through. I think almost everyone has a Biden victory except for a couple. Now, this is what I'm doing. The actual just polling map. So if we just go off the polls, we can show the specifics. Again, I don't think this stuff matters enough to do it. You'll see if Trump wins every swing state, he can win in that one. But the only reason why, even without interesting to show it, is that there's a little bit, the consensus really seems to be dead even, 50-50, or in some rare instances, Biden landslide. Now, I have to be honest, I don't think any of this stuff matters.
Does that make sense
all
to you?
BS. I think all this stuff doesn't, it's just guessing.
No, but go back
guessing
to where
is
you
the
are.
word for it. It's all just guessing. It's all just like,
but you can't say it's guessing.
Yeah.
When you have firsthand experience. Go back to that. So let's take that map, for example, Cody.
They call this the consensus. We'll use
okay. Is it consensus to you when you are looking at articles of entire trains of freaking Trump trucks and supporters, flags blazing, radios blaring, hundreds in front, hundreds in back, surrounding the Joe Biden bus, okay? So much so that the mainstream media has to try and spin it as them running it off the road when reality was just like this big show of force, okay? And you see that kind of fervor that you and I lived through the riots, bro. We lived through the fires. We've lived through all kinds of political events.
We didn't live through the riots. Like I was alive while riots happened elsewhere, but
no, that was in LA. Okay, well I lived closer to Los Angeles then. You're right, but still, like
actually you don't technically. I live what, a couple 100 meters closer than you, but no.
No. When I was a kid, because I was a kid. I'm talking about the riots in '96, bro, or the '94 riots. The LA riots.
Yeah, the LA riots were exactly. Dude, how old were you?
94 was the earthquake.
I was like a baby. I don't know.
I was born in '83, dog. I was like 11 or 12.
Hold on, but let's.
Okay, so anyway, I have seen what political fervor leads to. Okay, and is this map's telling me that Texas is a toss-up?
It isn't.
No, it's not.
Well, it's not saying Texas is a toss-up. It's saying Texas leans red.
Okay, well, then the one you'd flip to before said was a toss-up.
Dude, you know what? It sounds like you agree with me. None of this stuff matters. It's all stupid. It's all money. It's all money laundering, might as well be. Just people paying for polls to say random things. I don't think any of this stuff really matters. I really don't, man. Multiple reasons we can get into why I don't think the polls matter at all, but I think
people are telling pollsters what they think the pollsters want to hear.
No, I just don't think they're effective for how we communicate anymore. They just don't seem to work, man. They seem to. And here's the other thing, because like it's not like think about polls and like anything else. And if they were way off, you'd be like, yeah, it makes sense. People are kind of stupid if you just ask random people. I mean, polls are proven wrong over and over again, and even when they're proven right, a lot of the times you look at these elections, right, and it's like somebody wins by 1 or 2%.
Yeah, okay.
It's like, okay, so yeah, if it's gonna be close, and you go, man, I think it's gonna be close. So let's look, not even beyond, but aside from what the pollsters say, because like again, I don't care what the pollsters say, I really don't. What do you think? Now, here's the only other thing I think that I think is interesting to talk about for election night, because I don't think it's gonna be very much of an election.
Yeah,
we're not gonna find out anything tomorrow. I don't, unfortunately.
Yeah, the excitement of election night is over.
Yeah, but not all the excitement. What do you think? And actually, I know what you think. You think the world's ending. You think that...
No, I don't think the world's ending. I think the beginning of the years of tribulation are starting.
Okay. You think it's
as prophesied in the Bible.
You think it's just like the beginning of Revelations or whatever?
Yeah, dude,
the world's not ending yet.
Jesus will be here by 2033. Collect oil in your lamps. You have been warned.
Here's an interesting question. Kim Villasenor, thank you. Where's the post-election court battle funding going to come from? It depends. It's a very good point. Honestly, there's always this myth that like there's not enough money for like these politics. There's some rich person somewhere who will fund it. It always comes from somewhere, so to speak. But that's a really good question. I think the better answer to that is that it's worth keeping an eye on actually where it does. Like when it actually gets to that time where we're having these court battles and it's dragging out and you're like, where's this money coming from? That's a good question to keep asking because we'll have to see until then. But yeah, it's a good point.
Yeah. So I agree with you, Cody. It's just like movie producers. Movie producers are all the time saying, oh, just the film's not making money. Yeah, we'll give you a small residual check, but it's just not performing that well. Okay, then why'd you make a sequel? And then a threequel, and then a fourquel.
Well, they had faith.
You know what I'm saying?
They thought it would work this time.
Yeah, please. They're making their money. They're making their money, and Hollywood is famous for having two sets of books. The real book of how much money it made, and then the book that, your corrupt accountants make for you for the IRS and for people that are demanding residuals. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? So the same thing happens in politics. There's like the real book and the fake book. Okay. But I look at this and I was actually very proud of myself. I was on the You Ain't Black podcast and we were talking about an article I was reading from the USC School of College of Arts and Letters that talked about specialty questions in polling dictating and predicting better the traditional questions in polling, who's going to win the election, and even micro elections like the electoral election of each state. And I got there 24 hours before Tim Pool did. So I felt like you feel like 99% of the time with me. I felt like for like 1 second, and it was cool thinking I got there first. But I think just like you say that the polling data is not good at collecting information based upon how we communicate with each other anymore. I think that people have just gotten so fearful of, I don't want people to know what I think. I don't want people to know what I think, so much so that they just tell pollsters what they want to hear, what they're afraid they might get recorded as saying. Fear of the deep state is real.
Hold on, but fear of the deep state. So why?
Not even deep state,
hold
just
on,
like.
Hold on 1 second. I don't love the government. I don't love people on my phone. Guess what I don't do is pick up my phone and talk to pollsters. Like, are you kidding me? I would never speak to these people. Like, I don't want to, like, there's a lot of people out there that, like, for, like, non-political reasons don't talk to these people. Like, I don't want to talk to people. I don't care what they I don't think they deserve to know what I think, quite frankly. But yeah, I think beyond that, you look, there's other problems that polls have. Dude, I remember going through all the problems polls have during when Andrew Yang was running, and they were trying to, remember when they were trying to shoulder Andrew Yang out of these debates with stupid polls? I remember going through and saying, what are these sample sizes? Dude, there was like, when Andrew Yang was running, remember, way back a lifetime ago, there was multiple qualifying sections where like multiple polls would come out, and the margin of error of the poll was like exceeded what you needed for it to be like there'd be like a 4% you'd have to get in the poll. If you had a 4% or better, it would count as a qualifying poll. And it was like a 5% margin of error.
Yeah.
So you're telling me people that are at 0 could theoretically be at 5 is counting as a poll for them? Yeah. Obviously, like Deval Patrick wasn't actually at 5%, but like it's within the margin of error. Who knows? He could have been. I mean, there's so much wrong with these polls that we knew about. And I think
you're superimposing. You have a very, very, like, you're a cool guy, Cody, and part of your coolness is your uniqueness. And you got to understand, you are hyper unique. All right. Unique usually can't carry any adjectives because unique is supposed to be its own kind of adjective, you know, but you are hyper unique, bro, in the sense of F these people, I won't talk to them. There's plenty of Americans that'll like answer, oh, hi, you know, I'm with so-and-so, I'm doing a poll. Okay, fine. I'll give you a minute because they know it's probably some kid in a call center. We all worked in a call center once. So you start talking and then it turns political.
People. Everyone's going to get a call and be like, oh, I know this guy who way back. I knew a guy. No, his uncle was a call center worker.
You know, well, some people will start answering. And the question is, oh, who you're voting for. And actually, I give a shout out to Derail to the T. He said something smart. And he actually, he articulated what I was trying to say, but I was thinking and speaking too fast. I didn't do a good job. He said, I don't think I'd have fear of the deep state as much as the fear of cancel culture. And that's the truth. You don't know who these pollsters work for.
Do they take your name and your address from the pollsters?
They got your number somehow.
Dude,
and they're going to sell that. No, come on. How many times do you sign up for? No, let me finish.
One second. You think people answer the phone? Hi there. And now all of a sudden you're trapped in this call. I have to lie to this person. I can't tell them the truth, but I answered the call. I can just hang up.
Listen.
You're like, no.
Listen. All the time, these companies sell their lists. And politicians will buy other politicians' lists. Oh, Mike Huckabee, he famously bought like Senator Cruz's donor list or something like that for $2.50 an email address. You know,
that's a way different thing.
Oh, no, I know.
That's
but like
it's apples and oranges.
Yeah, well, how many times have we talked about data and big tech on this show? Where there's all this information about you out there. The last thing people want, knowing how bad cancel culture is, not understanding exactly the ins and outs of technology, they're fearful of giving their real political opinions because the last thing they want to be is on some a big text list of potential Trump supporters, so they lie.
Nobody's grabbing these people, slamming them on the ground. It's like, answer the poll, like Batman. Like, they just don't answer, dude. If you're that afraid of telling people's opinions, you're not gonna. Maybe you feel trapped because like, oh, it's a call center kid. I gotta answer the poll. But like a lot of people probably go like, oh,
I have a soul.
I don't care why you're calling me. Hang up, dude. I can't imagine the intersect.
I'm a liberal, Cody.
The intersect of afraid to tell people my opinions and willing to just pick up the phone and answer polls about my political opinions. Who is this person who's like, gotta answer the polls, gotta answer the polls. You gotta, hey, we support democracy in this house. We're gonna answer the polls. I'm gonna lie through my teeth though, because I'm afraid. Like, what? I don't know. Maybe I'm being, because dude, like, people will call and be like, oh, do you have a few minutes to do a poll? And I'll say no, or don't just hang up. Just like, sorry, I don't. I gotta go.
But then the poor kid's not going to make his money, won't win his trip to Disneyland.
Don't care, man. Maybe you should have a job that isn't harassing people on their phones to ask their political opinion. Especially because, according to you, there's people that are just living in fear of telling someone on the phone what they think.
What do you mean, according to me? That freaking Pew did a poll on that, and 24% of people lie now. The shy voter index never used to pass single digits, and now it's almost a quarter. Because there's legit fear of cancel culture if you're a Trump supporter.
Where is...
There's no fear if you're a Bernie bro. You don't live in fear.
To me, it's pretty ridiculous, unfounded fear that someone's going to call me. I'm going to answer the phone on my own. Sit on the phone with this person, tell them things, not give them my name, and then get canceled somehow. What?
I'm not telling you it's a completely rational fear. I'm just saying it's a fear, dog, and it's leading people to be dishonest. And so the polls are getting bad results.
But if you're irrational and fearful, you just answer random numbers you don't recognize and just give them all your time. I don't know. Maybe I am just really uniquely antisocial in that sense. I'm just like, leave me the hell alone. I don't care what you want to know.
You are hyper antisocial.
Hey, are they paying me for my time? No. Why would I do this?
I feel bad when these kids call because I think like, oh, I remember that job and it sucked. And you have to get like at least 8 out of 10 questions done to get credit for the call.
You're a fool.
So I'm a fool. Probably. I'm like a little bleeding heart liberal when it comes to like kids and jobs, dude. You know what I'm saying? Maybe I should be a little bit tougher in that regard. But I don't think tougher necessarily means evil, for example. Just like, you know what, Cody? You know how some people say hell is a hot or a cold place? I think I figured out what your hell is. Just being forced to live in a community where your yard isn't big enough and little kids run across it in your old age and you just want to be left alone, but you're like sitting on the porch like, leave me alone, you know? Being forced to live on a smaller property than you would like. That I think, or like an apartment building. in an apartment building. Like when they outlaw individual housing and the Green New Deal gets its way and individual home ownership is outlawed by the squad at the peak of their power.
Dude, and that's what I mean, dude. You I don't know. It's just like delusional land every second of every day. Complete delusion land.
You don't think they're going after it, bro?
Just the world of make believe.
No, they're going after it, man.
What's the word to that song? What's the word? By the way, I'm gonna flash up on the
from Willy Wonka.
Yeah, come with me. What does he say?
To the land of not new beginnings.
This is Joe Biden right here. I'm just showing you guys.
Pure imagination.
Yeah, that's where you live, man. That's where you. But anyway, I just thought it'd be interesting. I'll have it in the background here, because this is it, man. These are the last two rallies before Election Day, and then there'll be a few more rallies on Election Day. We see Joe Biden. He's out doing this is the mega rally with Lady Gaga and John Legend. Apparently, Lady Gaga is top billed over Kamala Harris. So I guess is it the Joe Biden and Lady Gaga ticket with Kamala Harris? Is that how they're campaigning list moving on?
Yeah. Oh, that's funny. That's right.
Funny. And normally it'd be like,
and
who
John
cares?
Legend is fourth. That sucks.
But not even that. Normally it's like, who cares? This is literally the Joe Biden like YouTube account. It's like Joe Biden on his own campaign YouTube account. It's like Joe Biden and Lady Gaga. Oh yeah, and Kamala Harris will be there.
Yeah.
And John Legend and stuff. But hey, Lady Gaga. I don't know. Maybe Lady Gaga's like Eminem. Is she big up? Oh, actually, no. Is he the Eminem Pennsylvania?
Eminem. Oh no, I saw the headline.
Eminem's like big in Detroit. That's all I meant.
Yeah.
Like, is she like big in Pennsylvania? Is that like, I think Pittsburgh is where they are in particular.
Hey, while you're thinking about that,
Heinz Field in particular, and then we also have going on right now. Donald Trump is also doing a rally. This one has. That is a very. You know what? I think the best way to sum up, say whatever you guys want. The best way to sum up the differences between these two campaigns, and just like the tenor around how Joe Biden interacts on the internet and Donald Trump. Donald Trump's stream has live chat enabled, and I believe
yeah, dude,
Joe Biden has disabled chat for his live stream. I think that just sums up how these people feel about the internet. Take it for whatever you mean. I just think it's funny. It literally is like literally Donald Trump has live chat. Dude, that is crazy to me. Donald Trump has live chat on his stream. People could just say whatever they want.
And look at the subs. He's got triple the subs too.
Yeah, subs don't matter. It's just funny that you most of the time for anything, it's not even like political. It's like Doritos is doing a stream for like their shareholders or some like stuff that's a little bit more official and a little bit less entertainment focused. Generally speaking, you disable the chat just to not to be a distraction, really. That's funny. But anyway, we have both these going on. Donald Trump, I believe, is in Kenosha, Wisconsin. Interesting place to be wrapping up his stream. Now, the bigger streams and more viewers. For instance, Donald Trump has 5,000 viewers on this stream, and then Joe Biden is 34,000 on his. Don't want to pay too much attention to those numbers, only because I guess you can compare them. Biden's getting more than Trump on their personal streams, but I'm just showing you guys these because I don't think Biden and Trump are going to copyright strike me. But if I showed you like Fox or C-SPANs, they'd probably copyright strike me. So we can get into the viewership wars. I don't know how important the viewership wars are, but I think it's very, very interesting.
That is, yeah. What is he doing to get so many more viewers? Biden.
People aren't watching Donald Trump stream on Donald Trump's YouTube channel. I think they're watching it on like Fox. Again, viewers don't matter, man. This is not the Monday Night Wars. Okay, we're not gonna pull up quarterlies and go like, wow, you see, once Donald Trump started talking about this, people start switching channels. I don't think it works that way.
Hey, we had a super chat from Sly Cactus.
Oh, please take it away.
Oh yeah, let me scroll back up. Here it is. Sly Cactus says, Cody's hell is being forced to watch TV with every commercial break being Bloomberg ads. Ooh, Cody, which do you hate more, Bloomberg ads or being forced to sit next to somebody that you don't know? Not even don't like, just don't know.
Being forced to consume any kind of media or any kind of like noise would be pretty terrible.
And then he says, also, how were your Halloweens?
That was pretty good. I took it nice and easy. I watched a weird horror movie that I didn't understand very much. That's about it.
What was the weird horror movie?
It's called Lake Mungo. We can talk about that later.
Okay, Lake Mungo. Never heard of it.
It's Australian.
Dude, this Halloween was the death nail that made me decide I could move out of California.
Cool.
This Halloween. I went out trick-or-treating with my kids. Actually, we'll back this up. I had heard 2 or 3 weeks ago when Gavin Newsom had said no to trick-or-treating. He was going to put a regulation down on trick-or-treating. I can't say he was going to outlaw trick-or-treating because he's not the state legislature and he can't make a law. He's not a legislator in that regard. But for lack of a better term, he'd outlawed Halloween. And there was so much pushback that he decided to un-outlaw it, that he had to take it back. And I thought, yes, finally, the people of California are rising up. They're growing a pair, for lack of a better term, and they're getting a spine. And now we can finally start taking our state back. The media hysteria and the hype has come to its end. So I go out and I take my kids trick-or-treating, and we go to the hot spots in our town. We're talking, there are entire streets in our town where people go crazy. We're talking movie studio, set decorators and art decorators, DWP people, retirees that are just hyper creative and spend a whole month creating their house. And it was like less than 10%, bro. Less than 10%. It was so pathetic. There was just not a good, it was still kind of a party, but it wasn't the party that it was supposed to be or was. And it's like, if my people can get bamboozled by the media much so that after 10 months, they still can't go out and just do Halloween. We're taking my kids' childhood away here.
Okay. Anecdotally,
yeah,
I live a couple hundred yards from you, and we gave away more candy this year than we ever have since we moved here. So.
You did? Well, what? Would you go from like 4 people to 2 people?
No, I mean, like, it was the busiest it's ever been.
Okay. Well, dude.
Anecdotally.
Okay, well, then that is the absolute difference, because I asked every person along the way in the 3 neighborhoods we went to, and they said, yeah, it's less than a quarter of what it was.
I'm just saying, maybe I'm wrong with my anecdote, with your anecdote. Anyway, Halloween's over. I'm very glad. I hope you had a great Halloween as well. So what do you think about, what do you think? Because
you really think Halloween was better attended during coronavirus?
No, not overall. I'm just saying, like, I don't think it was also, like, canceled, like, so severely impacted no one did it. Like, there are still people out, probably less in some areas, like the busy areas, but in others busier. I guess that's one more point.
Okay.
Counterpoint.
Well, either way, it was perfectly said by a woman that I not interviewed, but I did her inspection on her house today. And she said, yeah, we're leaving California. I said, why? And she said, because California is taking my kids' childhood away.
Okay.
I want them in school. I want them socializing. I want them to have friends. All they do is stay at home, play video games, and get depressed.
Okay. Think of the children.
Yeah, think of the children. Once you have them, you're going to think differently.
Hey,
bro.
I always think of the children. We're big on protecting the children over here. And someone asked an interesting question. They said if they have a closed captioning on, why do they have a sign language person? One, I think sign language person things like an accessibility thing the government has to have, like ACA stuff almost. And then B, they can kind of more or less control what the sign language person says. You'll even notice if you look at the closed captioning closely, it's not perfect, right? There'll be some words off. They want to make sure they have someone that, and it's not even like in a way to like control, like make sure, like it just, you don't want typos that didn't even come from you being used to represent you. I think that's the answer. Because yeah, you would think, like, is there really not an easier way than having someone frantically sign every single word Joe Biden says for 45? Like, is there really no easier way? But
no, I always thought that was virtue signaling.
I think, like, you'll notice, like, I think for some government thing, maybe it's all voluntary. I think though for some, like, hold on, no, Joe Biden doesn't have to do it right now. I agree. He's just doing it because, man. But I do think for sometimes you'll see them do this for like various government functions and stuff. And I think
like for example, our city council has to have an interpreter because you can't have pre-prepared speeches or what's called citizen commentary. You can't have that written out ahead of time. So yeah, but this is just virtue signaling. If you're giving a speech and then you want to throw a sign language person next there, it's just to show, oh hey, look at us. We care and we go out of our way. And by the way, I actually don't mind it. I recognize it as virtue signaling.
What's wrong with that? What's wrong with just caring?
No, actually, I come from a family of a lot of deaf people. And 2 of my cousins, like there's probably about 10 people in my family, my wife's family since I got married in, that speak sign language, even served their missions. You may not realize this, but LDS missionaries get called that speak sign language and know how to speak sign language to go serve and volunteer in church facilities. And there'll be entire service missions just to the hard of hearing and the deaf. And so I have cousins that like, that's what they graduated in was sign language and so on and so forth. So I'm totally down with it. I don't think it's a bad thing.
Hey,
Cover all your
anyway.
bases, but just recognize that it is just virtue signaling.
Speaking of, we have a super chat. You want to get to it?
Oh, hit it. Yeah. Kenneth Booker. He says, I wonder if the sign language lady is legit. They fooled us in the past and it was hilarious. Yeah. Like the guy that got up next to Barack Obama.
No, there's been like people that got hired for various things.
Yeah.
Where they were just out there doing. I mean, in some ways it does go into, because I do question like how many people legitimately, would prefer to. I wonder if there are some people that would prefer to your point earlier of just read the closed captions and then kind of some of these words might be off, but you know what I mean. Kind of use your best judgment. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe some people do like to keep up with someone signing in the bottom right corner, but I do agree visually it can be distracting. But hey, nothing wrong with trying to have more people get your message. Anyway,
we got another super chat
from Sergio McCule. Hope I got that right. Said, thoughts on the Biden bus Trump train incident. Okay. It's.
You mean the victory, not the incident. You mean the victory.
Okay. Well, hold on, Card. I think Cardin, like usual, doesn't understand the whole.
What do you mean doesn't understand it? I totally understand it, but give your opinion first.
What's my opinion? I guess my thoughts. I think it's interesting. I think it's pretty much what to be expected, right? Like there's a lot of rowdy Trump supporters, and there's a lot of, again, I guess you know what, to kind of sum it up, it's the same way I feel about the fact that Donald Trump has chat enabled on his own personal live stream of his events, and Joe Biden doesn't. You're gonna get a little bit more, I don't know if timid's the word, right? But yeah, you're gonna have this perspective of the big boisterous Trump supporters pushing around the little Joe Biden supporters. For whatever reason, man, that's always going to be the initial perspective. So whatever actually happened, I've heard people say that, someone tried to run the Joe Biden bus off the road, which I hope, I don't believe that's what happened because there's conflicting reports either way. I don't believe that would be the one. But hey, if that was, ideally that wouldn't be what's happening. But yeah, I don't know. I think it, just like I said, it can. My greater thought is it continues to just build this perception, this narrative that there's these big, boisterous, wild Trump supporters. They're going to push around all the little Joe Biden supporters, which, hey, I don't know. True or not, maybe that's reality, maybe it isn't.
I saw the video.
I just think it plays towards it.
Are you talking about the video where, they tried to cause an accident?
Oh, sorry. Whoops.
Is that what you're referencing? Because there was a controversy that, from one angle, people said, he tried to run this person in a white SUV off the road. When in reality, somebody had figured out what was going on and then tried to get behind the bus.
In reality, or is it just conflicting opinions there? That's what I mean.
No, when you look at the second angle.
Okay, yeah.
You can establish reality by looking at multiple angles. I don't know that the earth is flat, but I've seen enough pictures and graphs that I've figured out that the world is round. You know what I'm saying? I haven't walked its equator and ended up in the exact same spot that I started, but I've flown around enough, seen enough charts and enough graphs, enough angles, enough pictures from other places to realize, okay, cool, yeah, the earth is round. So I've seen enough pictures of this incident to realize, okay, cool. So, some leftists didn't like the embarrassingly hilarious show of force that it was to surround the freaking Biden bus with a bunch of big gas-guzzling trucks that all said Trump 2020 on it, and tried to cut in and almost caused an accident. Okay? It wasn't a band of rapacious, Mad Max road warriors trying to run the Biden bus with its geriatric driver and Kamala Harris, sitting in the back seat off the road to cause an accident. It was a funny, humorous display of force. It's just funny in my mind.
Hey. Sure.
So, I think the media instantaneously tried to spin it as something that it wasn't.
Hey.
It was funny.
Bad media.
And if it would have happened to Trump, right? I would have laughed too.
Oh, yeah, I agree. I agree that as long as no one was actually trying to kill each other, and it was just people kind of being rowdy and driving the cars around. Exactly. It's
like, what do they call tailgating?
Yeah.
It's like tailgating. It's literally like tailgating.
Different kind of tailgating. But if it's all in good fun paint trading on the road out there, whatever. But yeah, if it was something more.
Paint trading mean? I've never heard that before. Is that like one of your sports terms?
I guess I do hear it mostly come from NASCAR. It's not one of my sports terms, but it's the idea of when, if cars bump into each other, they kind of trade paint.
Oh,
you get the analogy there, yeah. Anyway.
So like I look at that, and I'm an intellectually honest person, okay? And had it happened to Trump that a bunch of freaking Biden flags You know, in trucks. Why wouldn't be trucks? It'd be like little Priuses. You know what I'm saying? Would have surrounded the Trump truck, or had somebody painted an actual train, the Trump train, and it had like a Biden caboose or something. Like, if they would have done a hilarious display of force like that, I would have laughed because it's funny. But the left can't meme, so they just try and make it some kind of shameful event that it's not. So the second you hear them accusing you of some shameful behavior, chances are it was probably just a joke that they couldn't have a comeback for, so they try and shame it. That's the MO, dog. Whew.
Mind blown, man.
Okay, we got another one.
Mind blown.
Yeah, so Engaging Life's Moments says, I live in the city with the Biden bus. A car was hit.
Yeah, exactly. Cars are into each other. Again,
no, because the car was trying to merge in front of a truck that was driving in its own lane.
Do you know how many billions of hours of human time have been wasted litigating fault in car accidents? I'm not interested in doing it here, okay? That's the only thing I'm saying. Like, we can get into who actually was at fault, but I'm not interested in that necessarily. But yes, to your point, the idea of a bunch of people getting around and making like car caravans. Again, as long as they just have flags flying and they're driving around, that's one thing. If they had, if they were like, for example, remember when they said Proud Boys, but I think it was just kind of like certain types of agitators, more or less, went down to just because there's not that many Proud Boys. Like, they went down to Portland. When that one guy got shot, and they're like sitting in the back of pickup trucks shooting paintballs. Like, if they were like driving up and down shooting paintballs at the bus, and like I would be like, that's terrible. You should not be like,
Well, because that could honestly like legit freak somebody out, thinking it's like a real gun or something like that.
That's just bad. You're like attacking people. Don't do that. Anyway, we spent more time on this probably than we need to, but what do you think about because we're probably gonna wrap up a little bit here in like 20 minutes. Then tomorrow we're gonna be streaming, hours and hours tomorrow during it. We're not going to find out who the president is probably, but let's, if you guys want to come hang out with us while we see the results come in, that'd be pretty fun. I'll be here doing that with Cardin. But I do, do you want to end on that with some actual predictions? Because I'll show you.
Oh, dude, I'll do predictions. Have you seen the map of the specialty questions? There was only one state.
The only prediction I'll really do. Sorry.
Okay.
So the only prediction I really do, and someone brought it up earlier in chat, I do believe Trump's going to win Pennsylvania. So this is the 2020 consensus. I'm going to take 2020 consensus, and I'll make it red for based on, dude. It just based on everything I see out of Pennsylvania, based on the fact that Trump has had just massive rally after massive rally after massive rally. Whatever the fracking argument is, Trump seems to be winning it in Pennsylvania. I don't live in Pennsylvania, but just from the outside looking in, it seems to be the energy points towards him. And I believe he won it in 2016, right? So, like...
Yeah, he took Pennsylvania in 2016.
Yeah, so, like him winning a state he already won before, I think that's one thing. I don't know. I think a lot of people... I get what have you done for me lately is a huge thing and everything, but don't discount the past too much is how I don't know. I just look at it and see there's going to be people kind of like, they're not big into politics, but they voted for him in 2016. They might do it again. That's the only prediction. I don't know what it does to the map, but I do feel like Pennsylvania seems to be a state that Trump's going to win. It just looks like it to me. Again, I kind of disregard the numbers in the polls because I think they're all crap. And just kind of looking at for example, they have use one of my sports terms. In sports they call it analytics, and you look at all the deep data. Well, then they got manalytics. You just look at the man on the field, right? Like, hey, sometimes happened in the World Series. Dodgers are getting owned by this pitcher. Analytics say pull the pitcher out. Manalytics say he's going to own them all night, and they pull him out. So just looking at and again, a little bit of a joke, but just looking at like what I see and like when I see people turning out. I can't predict voter turnout, but I can look at rally turnout. I can look at some of that stuff. It just seems to be like, and again, the reason why I picked Pennsylvania. Pennsylvania is a state Trump and Biden have been going to repeatedly and campaigning in heavily.
Yeah.
So just looking at, they're both going to these states. I'll use that data. I mean, Pennsylvania is where Biden has done, like, I think I want to say 65% of Biden's appearances post the convention have been in Pennsylvania. Like, he's just there all the time. Like, it's a big state for both of them, and it just seems to be when they both go out there head-to-head, Trump draws from people that are interested. And if I have to just use anything to predict from a state I don't live in, what's going to motivate, like, how do I predict voters and turnout? Well, if they're showing up to rallies, they're probably going to vote for them. That's kind of how I assume it always works. So that's why I guess. I'm not going to get too much farther because who knows, but it doesn't look like that.
Let me just tell you, this is why I think not only Pennsylvania, not even think Pennsylvania, I know Pennsylvania is going to go for Trump. And here's the deal. This is a feeling that my fellow fathers in the chat will understand, and a feeling you can only comprehend once you've experienced it. Okay. And I saw on I was on Breitbart's Instagram, an interview. All right. Yeah, I know you laugh. I knew you were going to laugh the second I said Breitbart. But
dude, that would, hold on a second. I just want to frame one thing to you. That would
What?
literally be like, look, I mean, the reason why you have to vote for Biden, I saw this podcast on Vox with and just being like some like left wing outlet that's like progressive and partisan.
No, but just
leftist.
listen, I'm not even
I would
talking about
just
the
disregard
outlet. I'm talking about the individual citizen that he interviewed. Okay. And the girl comes up and says, "Why are you here?" That's the only thing Breitbart had to do this whole thing. And this guy talks, and it was long form. It was like a 12-minute interview. And he talks about how he used to own a Dairy Queen, but it was forced to close due to COVID. And then he was he filed for unemployment, was given like 6 weeks of unemployment. But then there was, as they were going to reopen, there were so many regulations on him that he would have had a lifetime of debt, he said. So he was forced to close down. And he says since he closed down, instead of taking the state of Pennsylvania's debt, they're now demanding he gets the little 6 weeks of unemployment that he had back. Okay. And he says, and he's crying. A guy who's had a Dairy Queen in the mall for 16 years, fed his family, got college funds for his kids, the whole 9 yards on it. He says, it wiped out my life savings and I had to close it down. I lost everything. Not due to COVID shutdowns, not to COVID, but due to COVID shutdowns. I lost everything. And he says, and I know hundreds like me. And I hope that you tell my story because I know that there are hundreds like me. And I've been a lifetime Democrat and I'm voting for Donald Trump because I think it's the only hope that my city, my town, my this, and my that has. Thomas Jefferson said was a man loses everything, he loses it. And this COVID shutdown has shown all of the able-bodied, not very political, oh, sure, I'll vote Democrat because that's my union, or sure, I'll vote a Republican because, we live in Mississippi and my church group does. It's brought a bunch of just apolitical or slightly lenient political people to all of a sudden be aware, registered, and motivated to act on behalf of who? The shutdown or the open up candidate. No amount of hatred for what anybody says, okay, is going to compensate for the evolutionary sense that a father has to provide for his children. And just like Bill Clinton's campaign manager, who's the guy with that bad Southern accent, I keep forgetting. We know him. Come on, we've quoted him a million times. Carville. There it is, James Carville. Just like James Carville said, it's about the economy, stupid. At the end of the day, everything else is subordinate to that economic question of can I feed my family? And I'm sorry, if Joe Biden's slogan on the side of his bus is, oh, it's for the soul of our country, we're fighting for the soul of our country. No, we're not. I'm fighting to feed my family. And Donald Trump can do that.
Okay, but
so this has ruined the economies of so many states that depend on that electoral map. None of those people are coming out thinking Joe Biden's gonna make their life better.
But hold on, there we go. So you do this thing a lot where you just make these massive assumptions. What about people who agree with a lot of what you said, but they say, I think Joe Biden helps me feed my family?
Okay, cool, fine. I'm not saying they won't exist. I'm saying it's going to be a 60-40 landslide in those states. Instead of 50-50 argument, I think it's going to be a 60-40. Like, so I think the surprise in 2020 will be bigger than the surprise in 2016. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I mean, sure.
I think the surprise of 2020 will be bigger than the surprise of 2016. And the reason why is because in 2016, we had 1 year of bad press of Donald Trump saying he can't win, he won't win, he's a this, he's a that, leading up to the big surprise. Now we've had 3.5 years of nonsense. He can't win, he won't win, he's a racist, you're a racist for supporting him, cancel culture. It's only gotten worse societally since then. And not because of the behavior of Republicans. It's because of the behavior of Democrats. He's converted all the never-Trumpers, and now there's half of the freaking anybody in the middle we only have 14% of independents this time around. So I don't know. I think it's going to be a 60-40 landslide in some of these states. And states that depend upon oil, like Pennsylvania, forget it. There's too many sound bites of Biden out there saying he's going to shut it down. Too many sound bites of Kamala saying she's going to shut it down. So that's my prediction, is like a 60-40 landslide in some of these swing states.
Okay.
How do we quantify that, though, into you're a good gambler. Like, what do I make that? What are those in betting odds?
I don't know what you mean.
Like, if I think, so what's a 60-40? Like, so we would have to make this a bet. So what's it called when you bet on what's the percentage? Like, so if it ends up being 58-62, there's a 4-point spread, right? And so as long as you're within the 4 points, like,
okay, I guess yeah, you could actually you could put a spread on this.
So if he won 51 to 49%, then you could say I lost the bet, because even though he won, it wasn't by the margin I said.
Either
right?
one of these people is going to get 51% of the vote.
I think it's going to be close, because a lot of these areas are just plain old gerrymandered.
But like a couple percent go to independents, like right off the top.
Yeah, but we have very few independents left, dude. Not in this election.
People are voting for Jorgensen and my God, I'm flanking on the other
the Losertarian Party.
Howie Hawkins.
Yeah.
No, Joey Jorgens is libertarian. Howie Hawkins is green.
Yeah.
People
Bless
are
their
voting
souls.
for him.
Bless their souls. Actually, yeah, you're right. We can't factor out Kanye.
But
you
so,
know?
yeah, so what? So what would you? So what, you're saying right now going into this is like what? Trump minus 2%? Is that what you would? Or 2.5? I guess you want to do gambling odds. Is that what you would say? Really?
I'm not familiar enough with betting odds because I'm a good person. No, I'm just kidding.
It just means you would subtract 2.5% from his total.
I think that of the people
do you think it's like that big of a difference for either of them? I think whoever wins it'll be close, man. I think it'll be very
no,
close.
it's going to be close.
Like a 0.5% or maybe 1.
Yeah, no, it's going to be close. But I think, for example, in states where they're saying Biden's going to win 53 to 47, I think it's actually going to be 53 to 47 the opposite way. I think all of these margin of errors, I think it's going to be beyond the margin of error will be how incorrect they were. And I think it's going to destroy the credibility of the media for the next decade. Just like we still joke about hanging Chads because of the election debacle of 2000. You know what I'm saying? With Al Gore and George Bush 20 years ago. The botched predictions of the elite media class will ruin the credibility of all these elitist pollster organizations
what would that actually look
for the
like?
next 20 years.
What would that actually look like?
It would look like a 2024 when people are trying to say, oh, well, you know, the Democrat always wins after there's been 8 years of a Republican. Because shut up. You're a pollster. Pollsters got it wrong twice with Trump. Shut up. Tell us how right you were in 2020. Oh, yeah, you weren't.
No. You have no idea. You know what's going to happen in 2024?
What?
People are going to go, wow, look at the polls. Isn't that crazy? So-and-so's winning.
Yeah, but every year it'll be less. And like, for example, it's the paper ballot argument. Whenever we talk
just
about
how- it's
paper
just how
ballot
things
arguments,
work,
everybody jokes about hanging Chads. Whenever you and I
Hold on,
talked
one
about
second,
paper
one
ballot
second.
arguments,
One
they
second.
joke about hanging Chads.
Lies in the media have led to America getting involved in like multiple wars and conflict.
Yeah.
Just outright lies. Like people making things up.
And we're getting wise to it.
No, we're not. It just keeps happening. No one cares. And people are like, wow, we almost went to war with what, Iran? Not Iran. Who was it? Someone was trying. There was a part of the U.S. like media intelligence wing that was trying to get us re-involved in. I'm blanking out, but some other country. And people are like, when Trump first got elected, Syria, people are like, yeah, you know, I guess we got to go into. It's like, why? Why do we have to go into Syria? Well, he's gassing his own citizens. Years later, we find out, well, he wasn't. That probably wasn't happening.
But we're able to get wise to it. You were wise to it. Come on, he was your boy Bashar the Lion. You know, you would joke about Bashar the Lion.
I don't believe anything the media says.
Because you were dubious. Yeah, and why didn't you believe it? Because you're very internet from a young age, and Gen Z is the most dubious of the media.
I'm a outlier there, is what I'm trying to say.
Okay, you might be an outlier, but bro, you're a lot closer to the general population. In 1978, the most trusted man in America was Walter Cronkite, the main anchor of CBS. And now the media has less than a 13% approval rating in some of these polls, okay? Less than Congress, sitting at like 15% on average. So just within the living lifetime of my father's adult life, okay, he has gone from seeing the most trusted man in America not being the freaking Dalai Lama, not being the president of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, not being the Pope the day he visits and he's actually in America. You know what I'm saying? It's not a religious leader. It's not a sports athlete. It's not a teacher. It was a freaking member of the media, okay? To all of a sudden having a less than 10% chance of him believing that person, like, yeah, we've totally gotten wise to the media.
We didn't.
I think we're going to get to a point where media has a negative impact, where if they say something's good, the public will start believing that it's bad.
No, because you know why?
Why?
Because the people trust the media is somewhat deceptive. How much? Where do you get most of your news from?
4 or 5 sources.
Okay, you don't have to get into specifics. The places you go to get your news from, what is your approval rating of them?
Generally high because it's individual journalists.
Hey, qualifications aside, you would say you have a fairly high approval rating of where you go to get your news.
Yes, because oftentimes they give primary sources like the actual video of the event.
Hey, don't have to defend yourself to me.
Yeah.
My point is...
No, I'm just clarifying.
That is generally speaking, actually a good point. Everybody clarifies their answer. That's generally speaking what everyone feels about the media. Oh, media's terrible. They're the worst. Okay, and then what about, where do you get your news from? What do you think about them? Well, I like them. Like, they tell the truth.
No. It's individual. It's pixie choosy. You have to be pixie choosy.
Everybody has who's like, well, obviously they're telling the truth, but everyone else is terrible. That's what everyone feels. Then you could just switch apart the pieces there, but everyone's like, well, obviously these are the good journalists, but those journalists just lie. Like, that's generally speaking how people feel. It's not this black and white, just people think the
yeah, but you learn who's telling the truth through experience.
Hey, you know what? It's the
inexperience that rely upon the idiots.
People disagree in the truth, unfortunately, all the time. So, like...
Yeah, it doesn't mean they're all right.
Hey, it doesn't mean they're all wrong either. My only point is, there's going to be people who say, oh, the media is terrible, like Fox and CNN and all them, but I like MSNBC. Like, those people exist. So
and they're lemmings.
Whatever. You call them whatever names you want. I'm just saying, like, that's generally speaking what this answer gets to.
Okay. So the radical perspectivist strikes again. Hey, you should start a party, bro. We should
my party would be based on my party.
No, you could be a thought leader, dog. You could be like the Tucker Carlson of the radical perspectivist party.
My party would be on finding who would have like the rightful claim to the American throne, and then seeing if they're willing to step up and lead us as our king or queen. But I don't know, man. I don't think that person exists. I don't think anyone has like either the lineage or like maybe something more radical, like an emperor or an empress. I don't know.
What about drafting? What about drafting a king?
You can't draft a king, dude. That's the stupidest thing I ever heard in my life. Sorry, that's the stupidest thing.
Well, some people would say a monarchy is the stupidest thing they ever heard in their adult life.
Hey, cool. So don't care. You can't draft a king or a queen or an emperor.
Yeah, so what would we do? What would we do? Sly Cactus suggests the Oracle Party.
Hey, leaders are basically made.
Oh, actually, no, it could be like a theocracy. See, we got it down. See, in the Mormon church, God chooses. You just pray about it, and the bishop has to know who he's going to call to be his 2 counselors, prays about it, gets personal revelation, boom. Then he asks those 2 people to serve with him, and those guys serve for 4 years, and then they're out, and it's the next guy's turn. You know what I'm saying? Actually, if we ran our church, if we ran our government the way the Mormon church runs its hierarchy, dude, we'd be in real good shape, bro.
Well, no,
term limits, everybody's term limited. It's all volunteer. You know what I'm saying?
But you're missing a lot of the benefits of monarchy, so you can't do it that way.
Okay. Well, no, it would be the monarchy because God's king. I'm going Kanye West on you, bro. God is king.
That's not actually how monarchs work. The God-given, the divine right of kings worked. Always. Sometimes you're right. I'm not going to say always it isn't, but it didn't always work that way. Sometimes it was more looked at as the right to rule was granted to the king through God, but it was the king, since he had been granted the right to rule through God, really up to his discretion how he ruled.
Yeah.
Like the king didn't necessarily...
You want to go back to the Blue Blood days.
He wasn't what's the word I'm looking for? He wasn't like a conduit of God. He was more like anointed by God.
No, he wasn't the prophet.
Yeah,
you're right. He wasn't the prophet, but he was given the divine mandate.
Exactly. Hey, I'm fine with like a Napoleon, like an emperor. It's not like the God chose him. It's just I'm the emperor. I lead the country.
That's true. Actually, if we're going to have a monarch, I want the title to be emperor because that's just cooler.
Do you know what I like about that is when Kanye West went on Joe Rogan's podcast recently, he said, I just feel like I have been called to become president, like by God. The only way to bring that is I really would just love to see some kind of legit leader kind of take this and run with it. Like Trump, he's definitely, like, you can see larger than life persona, right? But I don't know if he's exactly the guy. Biden is not the guy at all. I can't. it's just so. I don't know. It's like we covered the whole primary. I was like, if honestly, I'm thinking back to the primary. I wouldn't mind as much if Buttigieg was on the ballot. I wouldn't mind as much if Elizabeth Warren was on the ballot. I wouldn't mind if Bernie Sanders was on the ballot. Dude, all of them from the whole time. I think I was always like, God, Joe Biden. I just don't like him. And anyway, that all that stuff aside, they're not. Neither of them are like that leader type person. Like you need someone who's. I mean, I've said this before, but like, you know, like, and I know but there's a lot of stories where people rise. I guess you can look at Obama. Who the hell was Obama in 2004? 2008 president. Yeah. I mean, like, you really have to have these people have this momentum and this energy and this will and this spirit. And I just don't see, I definitely don't see it in Biden. I see it, maybe something kind of like fading that was once like it in Trump. He's old and he's just kind of like whatever now. But whoever that person pops up as, that is who I'm going to support. I'm going to make a party based around making them the king or the queen. Anyway, a couple super chats I want to get into.
What would you call the party, though? Would it be the Oracle Party?
It would not be the Oracle.
No, it would have to be the monarchists. No, you would be like the monarchists in the 1800s.
You can't be the American Monarchy Party.
The American monarchists?
You cannot be that. No. Monarchists always get killed by radical and
the Jacobins.
Yeah.
Oh, you know, we could play off the Jeffrey Epstein didn't kill himself thing. It could be like
it would be
French Revolution didn't get rid of the monarchy.
American Liberation Party. That'd be the name.
The American Liberation Party.
Anyway,
actually, that is so 2020, where we just take a word and we flip it on its head. Like, you know, the Liberation Party is like the party of the monarchists. It's just like tolerance now means burning down a church.
We're liberating people from the tyranny of the masses. Anyway, you could frame it that way, could you not?
Yeah. Exactly.
Couple super chats I want to get to. Sly Cactus, $5. Thank you. Serious question. If you could vote any food for president, which food would you vote and why? Because we're kind of winding down.
Ooh.
Have some fun here.
That's a good question. If you could vote any food for president, which food would you vote for and why? Here's my SJW answer. Jesus. Taco soup, because out of many ingredients and the diversity therein, it tastes great for everybody. And it's healthy as well. And that's representative of diversity being our strength. And then now I go ask you for campaign donation. The practical person in me thinks Soylent Green would be whatever the healthy superfood is where you only have to eat it once. But what food would you vote for and why? I don't know. What would yours be, Cody?
Oh, yeah, dude. Burger.
Steak. Yeah.
the king of America. The president has to be a burger. And that kind of leads into the next one. Kenneth Booker said, random question, what do you like on your pizza?
Oh, but you don't eat pizza, Cody. You're like above it.
I don't like to eat it all the time, but just pepperoni, that's it. So
yeah,
mine's
you're a
quick.
pepperoni.
And then we'll get some other questions too.
Okay, so if I could vote a food for president, what would it be and why? I think I'm with you in the sense of kind of a hamburger with fries and a drink is kind of like the quintessential American, you know, like meal there that foreigners think of when they think of like America. They think of like Baywatch and burgers. You know what I'm saying? So I guess I would just, you know, a Baywatch burger. That would be what I would vote for. And then random question, what do you like on your pizzas? My mom all the time as a kid would order Canadian bacon and pineapple. So the Hawaiian pizza is an acquired taste for me that I actually indulge in sometimes. But I, like you, am usually a pepperoni guy. Although I got to tell you, I, any day of the week, could hit the stuffed crust. Stuffed crust, not New York thin slice, but like thick, doughy Napolitano pizza with tons of cheese and just some thick pepperonis with like a solid root beer. Boom shakalaka. That's what that is right there. That's what that is right there. Anyway, got another question?
Yes. Again, Kenneth Booker, thank you. He said, what are your thoughts on the Hill's legitimacy? Publication of the Hill.
You want to answer that one or you want me to first?
Sure. I mean, they're pretty good. I mean, they're like a lot of things. They're honestly, man, like they're not law. They're not fact. You have to kind of like everything, look around and kind of believe what you want to believe. But they're pretty good. I don't consider them bad, I guess.
Yeah. My thoughts are the same. The phrase that came to my mind, and I guess it's probably the best one, is at least they're trying. At least they're trying to come across on occasion as unbiased. And once again, it depends on individual articles. I've read articles on the Hill, and I've watched videos compiled by different members of their team, and there's many that I just view as just more even-handed and just kind of like understanding what they're seeing. And then there's others that are just like enraged, crazy, like it must be this way going into the article, and you're like, oh my gosh, it's like reading The Atlantic.
I mean, I hold them much higher than the Atlantic. Yeah, the Atlantic's one of those. I don't even believe anything the Atlantic says anymore. I'm just like, come on, they just keep. The Atlantic keeps publishing my least favorite kind of story. Some guy told me. It's like I don't. Anyway, a couple super chats. I want to get to those.
Okay.
Sergio McCool, $10. Thank you, man. Election day is a federal holiday. Who hates the idea more, Democrats or Republicans? Probably Republicans for productivity reasons. Democrats love federal holidays.
No, I think that's out of the way, though. To be honest with you, I think that's a stereotype of 1980s pro-corporate Republicans, because back then the average CEO only made 13 times its lowest paid. Like, it used to be that corporations was just a form of business, and if you were pro-business, you know, you could be for a small business corporation just as much as you were a big business corporation. So there was much more of a respect for business and efficacy and productivity. But nowadays, I think Republicans are more practical, more working class, and we understand the practicality. Now, I used to be much more make it a federal holiday, and I still kind of am in that camp. But now if we're doing vote by mail and you got 6 weeks to vote, okay, sorry. We don't need it to be a freaking day off if we got 6 weeks to vote.
Well, that's a good point. Yeah, if we moved away from vote by mail, because I don't.
If it's election day and we get away from vote by mail, I think it should be a holiday where we all have a chance to do our civic duty. But if you're going to make this BS, you can vote early, you can vote by mail, you can vote by whistling at a right person, you can send smoke signals and some guy will collect it, misinterpret what you said, and put it in the ballot box. You know, we give so many avenues of voting now that I really don't think we need to have a day off if it's like California. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, well.
So Monarchist Cody, there's a Monarchist Cody question. I'm loving this Monarchist Cody because...
Hold on. Hyperballistic Drifter God says, Monarchist Cody is now the most right-wing person on YouTube who has not been banned yet. The American Liberation Party, liberating us from the tyranny of neoliberalism and robots. Hey, for branding purposes, all we say is the tyranny of the masses. If you don't want to be oppressed by the tyranny of the masses and the crowds, support the American Liberation Party. We just have to find the right person to really take the ball and run with it, to be that, future monarch. And that's the hard thing. You have to find these, and it's so rare. You know how rare it is in history you have a great monarch? When there's a great monarch, they're, how many people, just think of some random names.
Solomon.
Yeah, Solomon. But even you think of some, I just think, no offense, but I think for a very long time,
Prince Edward.
Leaders in Western Europe were very non-consequential. Who cares who the king of the Britons was when there was people living in mud huts for 1,000 years? Who cares who cares who the Gaul leaders were, right? Yeah. But some of those names we even remember, and it's crazy. It's because it is that hard to find people that are actually true good leaders. Even.
Hey Cody, so I do have a question for you. You say you can't draft a king, but if the American Liberation Party were to actually win its monarchist goals, the first king would not have been a king who gained his throne through the bloodline, like you suggest, or through a divine manifestation, because you have not claimed one. Yeah. You would inherently be the first drafted king. No, you wouldn't. So because the people would have drafted you through so you're thinking violent revolution.
No, this has happened many times where the people just willingly decide hey, why don't we make them the king? Why don't we just make them the ruler? That's happened a lot of times. We have an election process.
Which is drafting. Election is, you're basically, come on, that'd be.
No, drafting would be, hey,
you don't elect a king.
Drafting would be, hey, you're running now. No, I'm not talking about
that. Which is the dark horse duo monarchist.
Which is dumb. No.
The dark horse monarchist.
Whoever that person is who's going to be a leader, they have to want to be a leader bad enough to not be drug into this by someone else, okay? That's what I mean. That's what I mean.
Yeah. So,
But
Phantom
that's why I
Freeze.
support that. But yeah, for example, my boy Napoleon, he was essentially just they just said, hey, let's make him king. Let's make him emperor.
So you got friends in high places. You got Bashar the Lion. You know what I'm saying?
I think he's still standing, right?
Yeah.
Hey, you think all the stuff thrown to that guy, he's still standing, huh?
So you've got Bashar the Lion and your boy Napoleon.
Yeah. Well, hold on, and then a couple things here. Because just to kind of wrap up the Hill question, Kenneth Booker said he was talking more about Crystal and Saga, and I wanted to get into that. That's kind of one of the reasons why I like the Hill in general, though, to that point. It's because I think it's really cool. Crystal, God, I'm blanking, but like I would not be surprised, and you see it all the time. Crystal goes on, like left-wing progressive outlets, does spots, and then you see Saga on Tucker Carlson like all the time. Yeah. I think it's really cool that legitimately it's like they just share a stage together. They're like, yeah, I'll go and do Tucker. She'll go and do, or you go and do, I'm blanking on the name of some of the shows. But at the end of the day, it's like it doesn't matter. They're one America, and they're doing a show together. So that's one of the reasons why I think the Hill itself, the fact that the Hill tolerates
like
having one of their chief.
Yeah.
Dude, there's publications that would not let one of their chief faces show up as a guest on Tucker Carlson on a nightly basis. They would just say no.
Well, yeah.
I appreciate the fact that
I'm with you.
They're not harassed for this daily. Like,
At least they're trying.
It's just allowed. It's like, no, Sagar's allowed to go on Tucker Carlson if he wants. He's allowed to be on.
But also, I think that was. I think though they're literally the Blumhouse model of political commentary. If you look at Blumhouse, he said something so interesting. He said the reason why I keep my movies cheap is so we're not afraid to take risks, because after all, if it's a $10 million movie. You know what I'm saying? No, yes, I know. Obviously, he's making profit and so on and so forth.
Not even that. Yeah, when I watch Blumhouse movies, I'm like, this guy doesn't like taking risks.
Okay, no, but I'm saying he did bring up a good point though. That in the beginning, he's like, I like the fact that it's cheap because we don't fear taking risks. Okay, and I think there's a lot of truth to that. When a $300 million movie is made with 60 different investors that have all dumped $5 million into it, all of a sudden it is now an investment instead of an artistic endeavor. So yeah, you're going to be making safe decisions like, oh, let's make Marvel Avengers 15. And no, none of the main characters can die because we need to sell merch and pay back the investors. So that there are going to be no Michael Crichton, the dinosaurs killed 90% of the cast books. Okay? So I do think it's true that... by keeping it cheap, you can take more risks. And to a certain extent, I think The Hill did that. The Hill is very analogous to us, Cody, because when you watch the Joe Rogan podcast with Crystal and Sagar, they talked about how they wouldn't even get 1,000 views in some of their videos. And they were like this experimental, let's keep it cheap, keep it inexpensive kind of video until they interviewed Andrew Yang and they kind of blew up. Because the Yang Gang took interest in Crystal and Sagar. And so we were kind of the same way. We'd done a lot of podcasts, not a lot, but we'd done some. And being one of the first to really start analyzing and going after the Yang platform is kind of what made us take off. And so I think there is truth to that. And yeah, I do like listening to Crystal and Saga. Believe it or not, I don't agree with Saga on most things. I mean, not most things. I'd say on plenty of things. And the only thing that bothers me about Crystal is obviously she like hasn't had enough real world experience to realize that just evil exists and is real. Like you can't just blame everything on the fact that so and so or X, Y, or Z thing wasn't breastfed. Watch the Joe Rogan podcast with him, and that becomes obvious. But I like that kind of show because I feel like at least they're trying, and if more organizations would try like this and would just make that happen, we would be in much better place. So I very much appreciate what Crystal and Sagar do, and I think that they're blazing a trail and establishing a market and proof that kind of content can exist. You said that too. You said you think within 10 years, bipartisan media will be a lot larger and have a much bigger part of the market share. You know what I'm saying?
Well, like, how do I put this better? I think a lot of people already assume when they hear something the media says, like, well, I'm going to have to kind of go like, I don't even like fact checks the way, but like, is this true? Let me look around a little bit.
Yeah.
I think having outlets that's kind of constantly countering its own narrative all the time to kind of establish like you get both sides. I think people are going to seek stuff like that. I do.
Yeah. By the way, Sly Cactus totally backed you up here. Brought up a really good point. Says it's quite easy. Keanu Reeves is obviously the rightful heir to the throne. Dude,
I don't think
he's a kingly looking guy.
I don't think he wants to lead.
But that's maybe why he would be the best.
Okay,
humble leadership.
People say that, but the truth is, I don't believe that at all. People say the best leader is people who don't want it.
What, would you want Scaramucci to be your president? Please. That dude wants anything.
No, you have to want to be a leader. You don't have to want the power that the president gets. You have to want to be the leader. You have to want the responsibility of, being responsible for the country. You have to want
I don't think Trump wanted to be a leader. I think out of benevolent humility.
I think he wanted enough to run, right? Like, you have to want that. Everybody wants the power. Everybody wants the plane.
Okay,
everybody wants the cool stuff. But, like, you have to want the fact that people are going to be calling you out, that you're responsible for the direction of an entire nation, more or less, better or for worse, fair or not. You have to want that. And that's why you can't draft people. That's why it doesn't work.
Okay. I see what you're saying. We just got a compliment in the chat, by the way. That classy nerd said PSP is like a hybrid of Joe Rogan mixed with Hill Rising. I will take that. I will take that as a compliment. Thank you. So the only pushback I give on that, Cody, is I think you are giving a meaning to want that is slightly different than the meaning that I give to the word want. I think there's two types of people. There's people who recognize that they can help their community out and they want to improve their community, and they recognize that them leading the community with their good idea or their good protocol is going to be necessary to improve that community. So they want to become leader because they recognize they have to in order for it to improve the whole. And then there's others that want something for themselves, or they see something they don't like about Washington and they recognize they have to convince these people to put them in power so they can go do the thing they want. So if they're an old king, they could go conquest the people they hate. Or if they're a politician who hates Trump, so they can go to Washington and vote against him. It's like the difference between, I don't know, who's Ronald Reagan, for example, and Katie Hill. There,
you are
perfect example.
Rent-free, man.
Just rent-free?
You bring that person up so frequently.
Who? Are you talking about Reagan?
Yeah, Reagan. That's what I'm talking about. You bring Reagan up so frequently.
Yeah.
Anyway, we can wrap up right here on that note. So, yeah. That's
we can't wrap up with you dogging on me.
Well, we're not wrapping up yet, but my only real prediction for tomorrow, I think Trump does win Pennsylvania, but we probably don't know who wins Pennsylvania for a few days anyway, but that's just my only real hot take prediction.
Okay, so then here's
whole election, who knows?
Here's my last two questions. What are the chances, Cody, of when do the riots start?
There will be no riots.
You think there will be no riots?
I mean, like, hold on. The same stuff that we've been seeing going on for months in downtown areas, that'll probably happen. I don't know. I mean, like, I don't know. Like people keep saying, like, oh, the riots, the violence, the unrest. What? I know every business in these cities are boarding up their windows. I know that. But, like, what actually is going to happen? Yes, downtown protest unrest. I could see that happening. Yeah, I can see that
November
happening.
5th. But November 5th. First off, remember the 5th of November.
Oh, my God.
All right. No, I'm just kidding. But here's the reason why. I think even the most cynical person would be too stupid to start the riots November 4th. But then again, I don't know. I think within 24 hours of that election night being ended, all the bad actors that want to riot will say, oh, well, now we got an excuse. We can go out there and they can say Trump's not gone yet. We know that he should be gone. So boom, 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 Antifa up, Black Bloc up. You know what I'm saying? And I think it starts and they test the waters. Those bad riots that happened in Minnesota were all because the police let the first target burn. They didn't shut down the rioting after they had gone into the target. And once the looters figured out they could steal and loot the target, then all of a sudden they figured out they could burn it. And then once everybody on the TV saw that first target burned and then nobody got prosecuted, George Floyd riots everywhere.
Nobody gets prosecuted same day, but.
Okay, yeah, but still, there was no law and order clamp down, okay? And they talked about this on the Hill. They talked about this on a lot of the podcasts we listened to. And if you study the timeline of all those riots, it was because law and order didn't kick in when they went after that first target, okay? And so I think the same thing is going to happen, and it will depend on what the initial reaction is by the authorities in those towns. And the first town that shows that it's not going to enforce the law, boom, is going to kick off. It's going to be the spark that lights the fire. That's why I got these, Cody. I bought you one too, bro.
Yeah.
I'm channeling.
When the world ends.
I'm programming one for you, and then one for Brittany the Shadow. Okay. And dude, like, I mean, I'm gonna call you. It'll be CE to the Oracle. That's gonna be our code words, so that Antifa doesn't know where our supplies are. Jesus. You know what I'm saying?
Okay, there we go. That's perfect. Anyways, I hope everyone has a great day tomorrow. We will be streaming tomorrow, many hours during the election, so you guys can come here and hang out with us for the majority of the day tomorrow while the results continue to come in.
It's been real, and it's been fun, and it's been real fun. This is Problem Solver Politics. See you guys in the next live stream.